This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Kalila Bodden. Kalila, thank you for joining us tonight on Rising Tide.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. It is such a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out on the website, and when I saw your bio, I thought, I don't even have to look very far into this one. We got to have her on the show.
Thank you.
So I'm okay. I don't want to hold out on our listeners anymore. So tell us a little bit about Kalila Bodden and make sure you hit the big high notes there.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. So hello, everyone. Hello, listeners. My name is Kalila Bodden. I'm a medical doctor and I'm a business coach for ambitious, introverted millennial women. I specialize in helping these women grow their online coaching business to 4- and 5-figure months and create their freedom lifestyle, whatever that may look like to them, whether that's traveling the globe or taking 3-day weekends every weekend.
Well, I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, but did you hear just kind of whiz on by the fact I'm a doctor, I'm a this, I'm a this. It's like, I mean, you left out like nuclear physicist and astronaut, I think are the only two things you didn't list. So that's amazing. So I kind of want to drill down a little bit more on your personal life, kind of, where you grow up, where you're calling from, where you grew up, that type of thing. And then I have a follow-up questions, but I want to drill down a little bit more about kind of the pathway that led you into medicine and beyond.
Yeah. So I was born in Canada. I spent quite a number of years there. And then my family moved to the Cayman Islands, and that's where I kind of grew up. It's where I consider home. And then I also lived in Ireland. It's where I met my husband. He's Irish. And then we eventually moved back here to Cayman. So calling in from Cayman today. And it was, and I guess that's with everyone. It's a convoluted, it's never a straight A to B from,
Sure.
your beginning to where you are now. And, I spent most of my life, I automatically assumed that I would be a doctor and I would go to medical school. And so that's what ended up happening. And I'm halfway through medical school and it hits me that this is not a good fit. Like, I do not want to be a doctor for the rest of my life. And I don't know if any of your listeners, if they've gone through the same thing in university, Kevin, but that is a pretty scary realization.
Sure, it is. And it's multiplied when you're in law school or medical school for sure.
And, it definitely was a scary thought. It was a very uncertain time in my life. I was fortunate enough to have family that they really supported me. And so I did end up finishing medical school. And I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I still went to work as a doctor. And I went to go to work as a doctor because I didn't have the courage to leave medicine at the time. Medicine it's sort of like a vocation. Like, once you're in it, people expect you to, stay in it for the rest
Absolutely,
of the time. Yeah. And it was really interesting because I gave my power to other people. I really put a lot of emphasis on what other people thought my life should look like. And if any of your listeners are like sort of like the type A people pleaser people, you could understand that, you've gone your whole life going the straight path, and then you want to like swerve and do a whole 180-degree turn, and you're like, what the heck? And everyone else is like, what the heck? So I was there, and as I'm working, and it was fun working as a doctor, but I knew it wasn't a good fit, and I really admired my medical colleagues who loved what they were doing. Like they couldn't wait to get back to the hospital or back to the clinic to go see their patients, to go do surgery, to go listen to the latest heart murmur. Like they got so much joy from it. And I realized like I wasn't getting that. Like something was going on and I wasn't getting that. And I also saw a lot of my colleagues, unfortunately, very burnt out, very frustrated with the system. And they thought that was the only life for them. Like we've all spent years getting into medicine, like dedicating our life to this. So they're like, I'm stuck and this is it. And that is also something that's really scary to see as
Mhm.
well. And it's not how I wanted to live my life. So, at some point we all hit that proverbial wall, and
Sure.
I'm like, this is it. And I handed in my resignation, and I left medicine, put down my stethoscope, and I took a year off and had no idea what I was doing with my
So where
life.
were you living at the time? Were you in the islands at the time?
I was in Ireland at the time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was living with
Wow.
my then boyfriend, husband now.
Mhm.
He was he is a physiotherapist, so he was working away. I was working away. You look like this great power couple, and you're like, oh no, I quit medicine. Like, what is going on there? And, it was like when you're going 1,000 miles an hour and then you just suddenly stop. It's like the whole world is just sort of keeps going at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
speed, and it takes you a while to kind of find your feet again. And that's what I took. I took some time off just to like find myself, whatever that means. Right. Um,
Right.
I'd spent so many years immersed in science, immersed in medicine. I just wanted to explore like what else was out there.
Yeah. So take me back to say undergraduate, and maybe pre-medical school. Was there any indication, any inclination that you were kind of on the wrong trajectory for a while, or was there anything else that was maybe of interest to you? Did you take a business class? Did you take a law class or economics or something that would have kind of triggered this kind of entrepreneurial spirit in you? It's somewhere along like, I mean, you can look back after the fact and say, yeah, now I recognize that when I sold lemonade as a kid, that's when it really started. I didn't realize it. Yeah.
That's so funny you said that, Kevin, because I actually wrote a piece of content recently about that. Like, I did not have any entrepreneurial background. I wasn't like hustling a startup in my dorm room. Like, I was literally just studying for medical
Yeah.
exams.
Yeah.
So that is a really interesting question. And actually, the thing is, I did medical school in Ireland, in Dublin, and they have a
Mhm.
little bit of a different system than the North American system. So North American system, you do like your 4-year undergrad,
Sure.
then you do MCAT, get into 4 years.
Right.
So in Ireland, you go directly from high school to like 1 year of this intense pre-med, and then a 5-year medical degree.
Okay.
So I went straight from high school into pre-med into medicine. So it was, because it's like so condensed, there isn't really as much of an opportunity to explore any other like minors that you want to do with your
Right.
degree
Exactly. Yeah.
and
It's
things
similar
like
to the
that.
UK. I mean, the UK education system was very similar, and France was very similar to that as well. So now, but when did you go from Toronto or from Canada to Ireland?
I Good question. So I was living in Toronto when I was a kid. I moved to the Cayman Islands when I was 8. Did finished off elementary school, middle school, high school here. Funnily enough, not funnily enough. I mean, tragedy with enough time becomes comedy. But a hurricane hit the Cayman Islands in my last year of high school, so I actually moved back up to Canada, finished out my high school year there, and then moved to Ireland directly from Canada at the time.
Was that, I mean, that's not a normal path for say a kid in the States. I mean, was it more of a normal path from someone from Canada to go to Ireland or go to the UK to study, or was this really outside? I mean, you were the only person in your school that went to school outside of Canada, or maybe you would dip down into Michigan or something like that, or, if you were really brave. But so was it Trinity? I mean, where did you go to school in
Yeah,
Ireland?
good question. Actually, I chose Ireland as my first choice because the college I went to, the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, my aunt and uncle went there way back.
Wow.
So it was sort of like somewhere I always wanted to go. I mean, I had backup universities that I applied to in Canada, but like
Mhm.
Ireland was my first
That's your
choice.
first choice.
Yeah.
Wow. So you end up 18, 19 years old, crossing the pond, doing your first year of pre-med, and then you get into the medical school, you graduate. How long did you practice medicine in Ireland?
A very short time. I did not complete my intern year. It was one of those years that you're just like, this is not going to work. This is not what I want to do with my life. It is something like, you know, when your soul is like screaming at you, like, this
Yeah.
is not the path to take. And you
Yeah.
just kind of suppress that,
Sure.
you know, because you're like, this is the path everyone else is taking. We're going to plow forward. And eventually the soul gets its way, like, and it would be a lot less, you know, pain and suffering if you listen to it in the first place. But it is as it is. The journey is as it is. And if I look back, I'm not sure that I would change it.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the ups and all the downs, it has just been such an interesting way to arrive at where I am. And because it has been so different, I've picked up these skills along the way that I'm able to use in my coaching that I'm not sure I would have if I didn't follow that path.
Absolutely. I mean, so many times on, you know, when I'm talking to a guest on the podcast, they you know, they look back and I mean, it's just very convoluted, you know, very, you know, like circuitous route that they've taken to get to the, if you actually mapped it out, it would look like, you know, a little child just scribbling on it.
Yeah.
But they can look back and they can see how all these pieces kind of fit together in this, you know, like I've used the term before, like a beautiful mosaic, you know, to really create this complete, you know, the last puzzle piece, you know, that fits. So you took a year off, and you did not know going into that year that this was what it was going to look like coming out the other year. So kind of walk us through quickly through that year, and what was the aha moment that you had, or, you know, the light that you saw.
That's funny, because I'm sure that there were like little aha moments throughout. But it really was a year that I was just exploring everything that I didn't do. Like, for so many years, I was immersed in medicine. That's all I did. That's all I spoke about. That's all I studied. So I literally just went, I'm like, what have I been missing? What have I always wanted to do that I'm like, oh, you know, if I was a housewife and I had all the time in the world, nothing's wrong with housewives, but if I had all the time in the world, what would I do? So I picked up Bikram yoga. I really got into like wellness. I started researching that relationship between food and health, which was so undervalued in medicine, because we do a lot of like physiology and pharmacology and pathology, but not necessarily like the impact that diet has on disease, and especially chronic
osteopathy.
Yes. Yeah. So that was an eye opener for me. I started CrossFit. I turned paleo. Like, it was just a whole 180 degree in my lifestyle and how I lived. And it was a lot of fun. And I traveled a lot with my then boyfriend, and just really, really took some time there's a lot of processing that goes on for anyone who changes path, whether it's careers or life paths, and giving yourself that time, I realize, is just priceless. So
that was a gift.
Absolutely.
It was a gift. And every time that you had a disagreement, I mean, he was probably scared to cross you, because, I mean, you're working out, you're doing CrossFit, stuff like that. You might be able to take him. I mean,
he's a pretty fit guy as well.
That is not for the weak of heart. CrossFit is, you know, its own brand of self-torture, I think. Wow, that's great. So you explored a lot of things, and you kind of ended out on the other side. So one note that I made myself to ask you, because I kind of looking back at your bio and kind of, you know, trying to piece together pieces before we had our chat tonight. And so normally when you go into coaching, it's really as a result of kind of taking this, I mean, especially like a business coach or a business lifestyle coach or whatever. So am I wrong in assuming that you kind of sped that process up? It seems like to me that you kind of came out on the back end of that year, you had some things figured out, and then did you go into coaching almost immediately, or did you try like run some online businesses for a while, do a little affiliate stuff, a little SEO, whatever you're doing, and then as these things worked, then you went into coaching? So what was the path there?
Fortunately or unfortunately, it was a bit more circuitous than that, Kevin.
Isn't everything?
So when I kind of finished taking my time off, we actually moved back to Cayman within that about year to year and a half. My husband Kevin, he got a job
What a
here.
great name.
Yeah. I'm like, before coming on the podcast, I'm like, I am not forgetting his name.
Yeah, you can, I mean, you when you talk to me about moving back, you can say, look, you can stay here and watch it rain. As pretty as it is here, as nice as the pubs are on a nice rainy night, or you can come to the Cayman Islands. I mean, wow.
So it was definitely another upheaval time in my life. My father had just recently passed away as well, so he unfortunately didn't get to see me graduate medical school. And so I just kind of wanted to come home, kind of get back my ground, spend some time with my mom, and just get back like a base.
Sure.
Fortunately, my husband got a job. He had one secured before we landed. And so when I came back, that's when I started sort of polishing off the resume, doing some interviews. And that's where I landed the job in health insurance. And that's when I became medical director for one of the public health insurers here. And it was really interesting. It was a really great job. And it was really funny because everyone who thought, I left medicine, took this year off to travel and do Bikram yoga, who thought I'd sort of gone off the deep end, they sort of breathed a sigh of relief, that
She's back to normal. That's right.
Normal. I landed this corporate job. It's very respectable, has a good salary. Like, okay, all done. We're all good.
As the Brits would say, done and dusted.
Done and dusted. But as you know, the story doesn't end there. And it was an amazing job. The more I got into it, the more interesting it got. Also, the longer hours that it got as
Sure.
well. One of the reasons I didn't want to continue doing medicine was because it was so time consuming for my life. My family is really important to me. Having a lifestyle that I love, traveling is really important. That stuff that gets really limited when you're in medicine.
Right.
Moved to the corporate job. I was working about 80, 90 hours a week. And eventually I started feeling, I just sort of switched my stethoscope for a desk,
Yeah.
really and truly. And that same sort of feeling like I'm meant for more than this, started coming up. And again, it was sort of like, I gave myself a hard time for sure. I was like, you know what, Kalila, like, you left medicine high and dry. You're super lucky to land on your feet like this. No way are you giving this up. And again, we're not listening to that intuition.
That's right. I can hear that internal voice going on in your head going, no, we're not going to do this again. No, I let you do it the first time, but you are not doing this again. It's almost like your mother is standing on your shoulder, wagging a little finger at you going, no.
Yeah.
No, we pay good money for you to go to school. We're not yet.
Absolutely. And so, it was like, well, if I did quit, what would I do? This time I'm not quitting without a plan, right? So, nothing sort of happened, stayed in. And then that feeling sort of grew as well. And it's a little bit of, like when you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not getting joy, and you're spending so much time at something, it wears away at you after a while.
Absolutely. And so many of our listeners are going to, I mean, you're really speaking to a very deep part of their psyche and their spirit by saying that. So please go on.
Thank you. Because it is something that I didn't pay attention to because I didn't want it to be happening. I'm just like, oh my goodness, why can I not just be happy? Like, what is wrong with me? Right? And all of this is going on in my head. And, it came to a point where I'm like, I'm working super long hours. Yes, I'm making an impact, but I'm also stuck chairing or in meetings that I don't want to be in. I'm attached to my phone even when I'm home, even on vacation.
Yeah.
And it just got to a point where I'm like, I need something different. And so I did think about, do I want to get another job? Do I want to look around there? But it really came down to, I needed a better lifestyle. And I knew any job that I would want, like around that level, is going to be more or less the same, take or leave a few indicators. And when you get to the point where you're just dreading Mondays, that your Sundays are starting to get ruined, and you're working so hard that anytime you spend with your family, you're exhausted and you're grumpy. Like, that's, your soul saying something needs to change
I
there.
thought that was just old age. Yeah, definitely, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, you walked us up to that point that where there was kind of this repetitive cycle that you were feeling that. I mean, you just changed address, you just changed, career, but it was still the same cycle. So take us to that point that you kind of stepped off that conveyor belt and said, okay, this is what it's going to look like now.
So I don't know if your listeners have ever had this feeling, but it was one night I was staying up really late. My husband had already gone to bed, and that feeling that you're staying up late because you don't want to go to sleep, because then if you go to sleep, you have to wake up the next morning.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to get ready to go to work, to a job that you don't want to go to.
Back on the hamster wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm there, scrolling through social media, scrolling through a bunch of stuff, and I come across like online coaching, and it's something never had been in like my hemisphere before, didn't know anything about it. And when I started looking into it, I realized, I was like, this is for me. It was like, for a couple minutes, like the clouds cleared and the sun shone through, and just, you're like, I could totally do that. That is exactly what I want to do. I want to be able to coach people in something that I'm passionate about, like make those deep connections,
Right.
help them make those changes and transformations. And it was that impact and fulfillment that I realized that I'd been missing the whole time, whether it was in medicine. And when you're in medicine and you have a clinic and you have 60 patients to see, you can't spend that time with the patients that you want to. Same in the corporate world. Everyone is just, get this project done. This is all that really matters.
Because something's right behind it. That's exactly.
Absolutely. So when I saw this, and I realized like one of my strengths is connecting on a deeper level with other people, with really pinpointing like what is something that they're struggling with, and how to give them the motivation and the accountability and that support to get them through it. I'm like, this is for me. So I think it was probably about a year after that is when I handed in my 3 months resignation notice.
So you carried on in your job for a year, and maybe kind of, I mean, every night you would get home and try to put the phone away, and you would be on Google going, okay, what is this coaching thing again? And let me maybe take, okay, there's a free course here. I can take it and I can get started. This one's like $49. I can kind of justify this one. Now we're up to the $497 course, so this one's 6 weeks. I'm getting pretty close here. So how did you decide what to focus on? I mean, coaching is a very broad category. I mean, and you're probably going to tell me, well, actually, I just kind of looked at my past and thought, what are the pieces that I can put together and coach people on? So, but this is your interview, not mine. So I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, actually, I knew like wellness was a big part of my life. And it was actually one of the main reasons why I went to medical school in the first place, because like health and wellness has always been really important to me.
Right.
And I sort of lost sight of that when I was in medicine and I was working those long hours. I wasn't taking care of myself, getting the sleep or the nutrition or the exercise.
Yeah.
And now, I was out of medicine in the corporate world. I'm still doing CrossFit. I'm still like eating paleo. It was, I moved to really researching organic versus non-organic, gluten versus non-gluten. I absolutely loved it. And I'm like, the natural fit would be to go into wellness consulting and coaching. And that is what I initially moved into. And it is something, it was a passion of mine. It had been a passion for years. I made sure to go out and get a coaching certification because I thought that, that all coaches needed that.
Yeah.
And that is what I started in. And how I got from wellness coaching and consulting to business coaching is that the majority of my clients, we would spend half of our time together dealing with work stress. And I absolutely love supporting them in that. Because wellness is I'm not just talking about calories or nutrition or exercise, like it's a whole holistic approach to people. And I realized that that work was really interfering in people's lives, like more than just a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 6. Like this was having ripple effects to their relationships with their families, with their friends, with their health, with what they thought about themselves. And we would be spending so much of our time, I mean, and it's all about supporting the client and not on work stuff, whether it is office politics or drama, whether it is actual like office politics
Mm.
or things going on, promotions that they didn't get. We were talking about that, things going on in the office and how the stress is impacting their health. I mean, stress is the baseline for almost all chronic diseases, inflammation, stress. And that kind of got me thinking. I'm like, I need a better way to help my clients. Like, I am really happy to help them work through the stress of work so that we can get to working on your health and your wellness and nutrition.
Right, exactly.
But I'm like, how can I help you better though? And that's where the business coaching came into for women who want to start an online coaching business. This is how I best support you. This is how I feel I best support you. Like, it encompasses everything that I have done on my journey. Like it like the skills of dealing with like high pressure situations from medicine, from the corporate world, like dealing with the whole corporate packages, coming into wellness, making sure that wellness is part of growing your coaching business. So you're not just growing this business but sacrificing your health. Like, everything, it sort of comes full circle that I want to help people live a better, healthier life. And this is one of my favorite and one of my best ways that I'm able to do that.
I'm gonna circle back with you in about a year because I want to find out what you're doing a year from now, because there seems to be a little pattern here where you're kind of rotating through things. Like I just have this like this big meter kind of rolling, in life. Okay, what am is it going to roll toward now? But so you started out in the coaching side of things, certainly in the wellness kind of spectrum, and then you thought, well, hey, all of my clients, the work stress is affecting their lives. I've got to deal with the stress before we can deal with, the second half, before they can get well. So the business coaching, was that born out of the fact that you were was your expertise in coaching business born out of the fact that you had been a successful wellness coach?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Isn't it amazing how all these things are just kind of, it's like a stair, it's like taking stairs upward. I mean, it's just building on itself. There's foundation layers, so today though, you are, I mean, people come to you primarily as a business coach or primarily as a business coach that teaches wellness or I mean, are there two channels to you, like the wellness channel and the business channel, or strictly as a business coach?
That's a great question. It's over time, my business has evolved into business coaching. And I do have a new package that I am offering new coaches who want to start their online coaching business. I still do some wellness consulting and coaching, and that is by referral only. If people are like, I really want to hire you,
sure,
I'm not going to say no to
right.
that. But primarily it is with the business coaching. It's something that I love and something that lights me up in a way that everything else that I've tried in the past hasn't done. Like
right.
When I'm coaching clients one-on-one with them, when they say, yeah, they just landed their first client, it's like their success is my success. I absolutely love it. When they start handing in their resignation letter and they know it's like countdown time, it is just, I know what they're going through because I went through it.
Exactly.
I'm so
more than once. That's right. That's right. You're a trained professional at making that transition. Okay, I'm going to ask $1 million question here that I'm sure our listeners are going to want to know too. And in this setting, where it's a nice safe space, it's a safe harbor. There is no such thing as a stupid question. But you're going to, after I ask this, you're going to go, well, yeah, actually there is a stupid question.
No.
Yeah, so I have no problem at all imagining how a business coach makes money. I have a lot of difficulty imagining how a wellness coach makes money. I mean, so if let's say I'm not eating right, I mean, and I call you and you go, yeah, I'm going to charge you $100 an hour to tell you what to eat. And I'm going, can I just not Google that? I mean, is that a ridiculous question? I mean, how do you frame that with a value proposition? I mean, a business owner, you say, hey, I can increase your bottom line by 10%, or, we can lay a much better foundation. So your revenue is going to build, that type of thing. So that's my stupid question of
Yeah,
the episode.
no,
So
Kevin, that is actually a great question because it is.
you're just being nice.
Absolutely not. Excellent. Actually, I came across this article the other day, and it was someone who wasn't in the coaching industry, who didn't really sort of understand what business coaches do, and they thought that, like, their interpretation of it was business coaching is sort of like an MLM pyramid scheme.
Sure,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
this business coach teaches, this business coach teaches, this
Right.
business coach, and I could understand where that person was coming from because that's how it could look. But the difference is, and what I find so empowering about coaching is you're empowering that person to do what feels right for them. I don't make money off my clients from their businesses.
Right.
It's literally just what my packages are, they pay, and then we ride together to make this happen.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's funny because I'd say, half of my clients are health and wellness coaches. And it is interesting that you mentioned that, with a business coaching, that you could justify your pricing a lot easier than a wellness or health coach. And I would say they're equal, or even it could be easier with the wellness or health coach. If you have someone coming to you who maybe is, money, finances are not an issue, but they have, they have Crohn's disease, or they're severely overweight and they're at a high risk of cardiovascular disease. The doctor says, they're one burger away from a heart attack. Like, that stuff that money can't pay for. Like when we start talking about our mortality, like, the dollars go out the window, and you're just like, I need someone.
You're exactly right.
To
You're
get
exactly
me
right.
better.
What a great clarification.
Thank you. And I would even go out on a limb to say that if you're able to show that level of value on how you can change someone's life, no matter the niche in your coaching, you will be able to charge high ticket prices. And that's the question I get a lot from new coaches, like, do I have to be charging $29 a session or $50 a session? It's like, you do not have to lowball your prices.
Right.
If you are able to offer and show someone and paint that picture of the value that you are giving them.
But I mean, you started with a little bit of an unfair advantage, though, because I mean, not many of us would have the letter M and D after our names. That as far as nutrition is concerned, or something. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not, trained in nutrition or that type of thing. I mean, I see so many people out there that say, "Hey, I stopped eating bacon and I lost 10 pounds and now I'm a nutritionist." So, and and then I see, your credentials. I say, no doubt about it. I mean, there was no question in my mind that you could make that work. I'm just saying, there's hundreds of people out there, thousands that I, see float through in my Facebook feed that say, I'm wellness. It's this diet is the, the panacea for all ills. And, just one right after the other. I'm thinking, you were doing something else, a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago. You'll be doing something else in 6 months, that type of thing. So it seemed like there was just kind of a glut of coaches in that space that were all kind of trying to get some momentum, and it just seemed like that it would, that, like, obviously from my naivety, that I was speaking out of ignorance, that, it would be easier to talk to, say, a business person and say, hey, I can help you, generate more revenue, generate more leads, generate more sales, all these kind of metrics that we can measure. But I love your explanation, because you're exactly right. I mean, you convinced me halfway through your answer that I obviously didn't know. I mean, I was convinced when I even asked the question. I didn't know what I was talking about, but you drove that stake home. So
well, that is a really good observation, Kevin, and a really good question as well, because that is something that people, like, the online coaching industry has just blown up over the last, like, half a decade to decade. Yeah. And I think now it's about, no, actually, this is a 2016 statistic that it's a $2 billion industry, and it only has continued to rise exponentially. So there are a lot of coaches, and there are also a lot of people looking for coaches. And so I think, on one hand, the credentials are are really important. I have seen certified coaches who are not perhaps the best, most experienced. They're not able to support their clients in a way that the clients want them to. I've seen coaches who are not officially certified, but who are providing results. And I think this is actually something that I go through with each one of my clients. Like if they're considering, should I go for a coaching certification? Should I not go for a coaching certification? There are pros and cons to everything. It depends on you as a person. It depends on the type of services that you're offering as well. Consulting services, which a lot of people mix up coaching and consulting.
Right. They're vastly different. Yeah.
Just for your listeners, in case they're not aware, coaching is where you're working one-on-one or with a group of clients, where you're able to ask the right question, ask the deep questions to find out from your clients what is their best next step, and work with them to put together a plan. If you are consulting on something, that means that you are the expert. You come in, you assess what's going on, and you give your advice as to this is what should happen, and the person or the client needs to execute. There are a lot of coaches that do overlap, but again, I'm always very careful. Like if you are doing overlap, let your client know you're putting on your consulting hat.
Yeah.
This is what you recommend.
Yeah.
And I think qualifications are one thing. I think being able to get results and building that reputation is another thing as well. Like you want to be an effective coach. Otherwise, as you said, you're just, pinging like a ping ball back and forth.
Right, exactly.
All these niches.
Throwing anything at the wall that hopefully something sticks. But I love the distinction between consulting and coaching. I mean, I've always kind of looked at that like a consultant comes in and tells you what you're doing wrong, and a coach is encouraging you to do more things right. A consultant's looking at the situation, and a coach is looking at the individual. I mean, there's just so many, distinctions that, that you could continue to clarify the difference, between those two. But I have chased so many rabbits because your questions have been, have such depth, and there's so much temptation for me to ask follow-up questions. And I'm expanding the chat, beyond the limits of what we were fully intended. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to take up your time here near the end of our interview. That the section that we talked about before, that we just recently started doing, this kind of our micro course area of the chat. And I really want you to just take this space and, as you're talking to, maybe potential coaching clients that might be looking to get into this space, the floor is yours. You let me do your little mini TED talk right here for us on the coaching space, and just let me know how you want to title it, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Kevin. This is really, really interesting because the coaching industry, as I said, it is booming, and everyone is I'm going to say everyone, a lot of people are coming out saying, how do I get into it? How do I get a piece of it? And one of the biggest questions I get is if we use health coach or wellness coach as an example, I want to be a health or wellness coach, but I know 1,005 other health and wellness coaches out there. Sure. What's going to make me any different? And one of the things that I would say to that is we all have a gift of coaching. It's whether we choose to use it or not, but we all have an area of expertise, of passion, and we share that with our clients in our own way. So I would never say that because there are 100 other coaches in your niche out there that you shouldn't do it. I would say, and it's so funny because one of my quotes that I absolutely love is, a rising tide raises all ships. And so when I saw your podcast,
I've never heard that before. I use it every episode.
Oh, goodness, and my follow-on to is, a rising tide raises all ships, and there is no competition, only collaboration. It is not a zero-sum game. There is enough abundance for everyone and more. And when you go in with that mindset, then you realize you have a unique gift that no one else can share with you in your way, can connect with your clients in your way. And that is something to keep in mind. If you ever think that, if any of your listeners are ever thinking that, well, I would love to go and be a finance coach, but there are 1,000 other finance coaches in my personal Facebook feed. there is only one of you, and there's a reason there's only one of you, and that's what we use to your advantage.
Right.
So I just wanted to share 3 quick tips with your listeners. If any sort of ambitious, introverted millennial ladies are thinking of stepping into the coaching industry, or what that's about. The first thing I would say if you're looking into launching your coaching business is, number 1, choosing a niche, or if you're in the States, choosing a niche. However you choose to pronounce that.
Hey, we spent time in France, so I have to say niche.
And, the reason is because we were talking about this earlier, your coaching skills. The coaching skills transcend the niches, absolutely. But when you choose a niche, there are definitely incredible benefits to that. Number 1 being you're able to build a reputation with a solid, consistent target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, you're able to build content, build your business around that. It does not, as some people believe, it does not limit the amount of clients that you get. It actually increases the amount of clients that you get, because you're able to drill down and really nail those pain points and desires that your clients, your ideal clients want. And the example I like to give of that, because it is a little bit counterintuitive when you're like, I want as many clients as possible, so I don't want to niche down. Mm-hmm. And the example I like to give is the one, we're all familiar with, Amazon.com.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, Kevin, way back, I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000, Amazon was the primary place to buy books online. Like, that's mm-hmm. all they did.
Right.
They dominated the space in that. There was nowhere else to buy books. They had the best customer service. And they were able to dominate that market. So when they started adding on other services, they started selling household goods, they started selling electronics, they started selling a whole range of other things. They became a one-stop shop for everything in the world. I think maybe the only thing you can't buy is a house on there. But I literally think you can buy everything else on Amazon. They were able to do that because they built such a solid foundation and such
right.
a solid tribe from selling books and from dominating that niche, from becoming the go-to with the best customer service. When they started adding on all these other niches, people just automatically went to them. If they sell that as good as they sell their books, I'm going to be sticking with them.
Yep.
And so that's sort of why having a niche is hugely beneficial if you're looking to launch your coaching business. And people ask, how do I find out like what niche I should be in? Asking yourself a few different questions, to journal about it, to really explore, is one of the best ways. And one of the first questions I would say to ask yourself is to ask, what can you talk about for hours on it? Like, what is it that you love that if someone started a conversation with you, 2 hours would go by and you wouldn't even notice? You kind of get an indication as to what topics you're super passionate about, what topics you have a lot of knowledge on, and you have a lot of experience. The second question to ask yourself would be, what questions do people come to me for? Like what am I the go-to person for? Because sometimes a lot of people say, I don't have an expertise, I don't have a passion, I don't even know how to answer that question. Sometimes an easier way first is to look at that external validation and say, what are other people coming to you for? And usually you would know, like, everyone comes to me because I'm the best baker in the family or on the block. People sometimes find this question a bit easier. And then number 3, what do you enjoy helping others do? Because that's essentially what coaching is. We're here to support our clients, and whatever niche you choose, it's about supporting them and getting from A to B. And what do you enjoy helping people do? And that is step number 1, is what I'd say. First of all, get your niche down, get super focused and honed in on that. And then number 2, getting really clear on your messaging, on your visibility, on your voice that you're using, because this is where we start looking at your, like, branding that personality, branding your business. And we want to make sure that we're doing it authentically. One of the things that I work with my clients on is getting that genuine voice, authentically branding their business, so they're not hiding behind some veneer of generic, or, how to look like 1,000 other coaches. Is to not brand your personality, not let your quirks and your uniqueness come out, because that's what your ideal clients connect with. They want to know what's different about you than other coaches. You may have the same certifications as a coach, you may be in the same niche or similar niche as another coach, but maybe your personality vibes a lot better with someone, and that's what we want to make sure that we're getting out, along with your expertise.
Can I stop you there just for a second? What is your individual unique selling point? What's your USP? What do people see when they first see you? They first hear you, they first see you, they first go to your website. What's the thing that you think is the initial attractant for a potential client?
I love that question. And it's actually something that I get a lot of feedback on. So I really specialize in working with introverted, empath, highly sensitive women, because I'm an introvert, I'm an empath, I'm a highly sensitive woman. And it's something that I struggled with when I got into the entrepreneur space, because I'm sure you're aware, there are a lot of extroverted entrepreneurs. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who follow the sort of bro culture way of running a business. And for someone who's an introvert and who's on the quiet side, it doesn't vibe so well.
Hey, we loud bros, don't we have a space somewhere too?
So I create, this cozy space, this safe space for introverted women who want to have a successful business, but dread the thought of networking, of getting out there, and that's where I excel
I love that. I mean, I think you finally arrived at like the one word descriptor, cozy.
in.
What a great description. So I did not mean to throw you off. You were talking about point number 2, kind of where you're clarifying your voice and your message. So
Yeah. No,
which it kind of fits, yeah.
So that's exactly that question, Kevin. It's like sort of like, what makes you unique? How do we brand that? How do we get that out to your ideal client? And one of the ways that we make sure that that clients are writing in their voice is that they're authentic with their writing. Like, they're not just sort of writing or sharing content, whether it's videos or writing or podcast or audio, based off of what they heard,
Sure.
but that sharing their own stories, their own transformation, the transformations of their clients. This does a few different things. It starts highlighting how they're different from other coaches, and it also shares their expertise, that this is what they have gone through, and this is how they've gone to the other side, and how they help their clients get to the other side.
Right.
So I get the question all the time, what content to share? Like, should it be top tips? Should it be how-tos? And the first recommendation I make is always ask your audience. Like, we as online entrepreneurs, we have an idea in our head as to what we think we should write, but your audience is going to have a different idea as to
Exactly.
what you want to write. An example of that I had recently, one client, she's a finance coach, and she wanted to share content, and she had been sharing content, sort of how to optimize your IRA, your Roth IRA, that sort of thing. And she was saying she wasn't getting any traction. No one seemed to be interested, but she polled her audience, and she's like, this is what my audience want. And I said, what were the words when you polled your audience? What were the words that they used? She's like, yeah, they want to know how to retire with money. They want to know how to optimize their retirement money. And I'm like, that's the wording that you need to be using. Yes, you may be sharing the exact same thing, but your audience is looking for that exact wording, that exact phrase. That's how you connect on a deeper level with them. So she changed it up. She started getting engagement, started booking discovery calls. It's little things like that that make a big difference to people's connection with their target audience. And the third step, I would say, if you're looking to launch an online coaching business, is to learn how to make selling feel fun and easy. And this is something I spend a lot of time with my clients, because at the end of the day, we are running a business. So whether you're a health coach, whether you're a mindset coach, or you're a habit coach, or you're a healer, you have to make sales to keep in business. And from my own path with making sales, for my own investment in coaches, I thought that hard selling was the only way to sell. Like, when you get people on the phone and you don't hang up till you get their credit card. I was cold calling. I thought that was the only way to make sales. And so it's something that I struggled with at the beginning in my business. And it's only through working with a multitude of different coaches, really honoring my introverted, my empath self, that I was able to create a sales process that worked for me and that does feel fun and easy. And that is something that I work on with my clients, because if we can make sales feel fun, if we can make it feel like really natural and genuine, then you end up making more sales.
Especially for introverts, because they're not going to naturally, I mean, they're not, it's very difficult for them to put themselves out there anyway. And if they do it in a pushy way, they're thinking, I'm offending everybody. I wouldn't like it if some people did this to me. So why am I doing this to somebody else?
Exactly.
So I love the way you kind of catch that third point. So let me recap real quick. So this is really just how do you launch an online coaching business? I mean, kind of the three top steps or three initial steps. And one is just, choose your niche wisely, kind of niche down, almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but almost niche down till it hurts, type thing. So the second is really, how do you clarify your voice and your message, or how do you, I guess, give voice to your unique selling proposition, and then the third is really launch something that generates sales in a really an easy and a fun way, as you were talking about. So, and within that the niching, there were, how do you arrive at finding your niche, and how do you, build your reputation and really create quality content around that niche space within that. So what a great summary of, how to launch an online business. And this will be, on YouTube as kind of a separate, video that is just, specifically geared at people that are really interested in this particular topic. So Kalila, thank you so much for just taking the time today, and just you've been a delight to have on the show, and you've made me smile the whole show here. But is there anything that I haven't touched on that you just want to add here right at the end? Just give us a 1 or 2 line to wrap up, and then tell people where they can find you online.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to leave with any of your listeners, whether you're looking to become an online coach or not, whether you're looking to become an online entrepreneur or brick and mortar art entrepreneur, whether you're looking to up-level your career, I came across this quote early on in my entrepreneur experience, and it really sort of helped me focus on what I needed to do for success. And the quote follows as this: with the right action, mindset, and support, your success is inevitable. And that follows no matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're in the professional world, whether, I'm sure if you're in like the research world, same thing if you're in the political world. If you take the right action, you have the right mindset, and you're getting the right support, your success is inevitable. And I just find that quote so empowering for me. If I ever find that I'm feeling like stuck, or I'm not getting the outcomes that I'm looking for, if I go back to, am I taking the right action? Do I have the right mindset around this? And am I getting the right support? If I make sure that those three are covered, then I know it's all going to be fine.
Wow, what a great way to wrap it up. I mean, you just gave us a freebie there. We got a buy one get one free micro course. We got another one right there at the end. So, where's the best place to find you online?
So I actually have a free workbook for coaches who are looking to get into coaching but may not feel that confident with their skills. And so I have a free workbook called Unlock Instant Confidence to Attract Clients Now. And people can get that at bit.ly/unlockconfidence. And that is, you can go grab it, download it, and use it right away. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from that. It's a freebie, but I also let my clients know about it. Sure. Because it is touch, especially if you do not have an entrepreneur background. Moving into the entrepreneur space and trying to coach your passion, it can be a challenging transition, and having that base, having that solid confidence is going to make everything a lot easier and a lot quicker happening.
Right. Well, we will make sure that link is in the show notes that's attached to the episode when it goes live. And once again, I just want to thank you so much for just taking the time tonight and just really sharing your life story with us, and there's this kind of the circuitous pathway that you covered so well, so eloquently. But I want to just recap one of your favorite quotes. I just want to thank you again for just playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Kalila, thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me.